graphic sheets on your table if you want to follow along, if that's helpful to you. And any of you on the back, please feel free to join. There's a lot of empty seats at the tables. This table just vacated in the front. So fill in, because the next part of what we're going to do is collaborate a little bit. So, Brent, have it.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. All right, I'm going to try to cover an awful lot of ground in a short period of time, so bear with me. But as Kristen said, there are some flyers on your table that sort of summarize some of the data I'm going to go through, but I want to give it some context because it really is important to the conversation we're going to have tonight. Yes, if you did not register and earn a sign at the table, find an open seat because we need to have a good representation at each table. So please, or long, have a seat. Thank you. All right, so Mike, I'm going to talk a little bit about who it is we're here to actually try to serve. The presentation you just saw, I thought provided some pretty inspiring ideas and examples of collaboration between different entities. Our program tonight is really focused very narrowly. It's focused on an area that we call workforce home buyers. This is about owner-occupied housing, creating opportunities to produce more housing that people can buy, own, live in, and invest in the community. So we're very focused on that audience. So who are these people? We for the purpose of tonight, have been classifying them as people at 80 to 120% of area median income. These are the folks that are making a decent living, either as a one or two earner household. They are working full time. They have the ability to purchase, right? They either have good credit or decent enough credit. They may have some debt, they may not. The ranges up here in terms of purchase price and income really do reflect a lot of variables. But fundamentally, if you look at these payments, and these are fully loaded payments, including taxes and insurance and all the rest, we're talking about people who can afford to buy homes that tend to wind up being between about $150,000 and $300,000. So those are the kinds of folks that we really want to start to provide housing for. They are all across our community. These are people who are engineers, they're architects, they're computer technicians, public safety people, people involved in post-secondary faculty administration, nursing, financial management, teachers, social workers. This is the fabric of our community. These are people who would love to own a home, but simply the stock doesn't exist for them to purchase and participate. Let's take a broad, quick overview of the historical view of the market, and then I want to drill down into specifically the market of homes that this audience would be wanting to pursue or able to pursue. In the last 8 years, we've seen a relatively steady decline in homes that come on the market. We are now down to less than 500 homes a year that come on the market out of our existing housing stock. The studies that we've been reading that the county has done and others have done point to a real need for owner-occupied housing and that price range that I mentioned on the order of 200 to 300 new units every year for the next 10 years, right? Well, we're not producing any new units, and in fact, we have very few to begin with. So it's really a constriction of the marketplace. People are holding on to their houses longer, they're staying in place longer, and so they're not bringing them up onto the marketplace. And this is interesting. If these bars are by price range. The blue at the end are the lower price homes, 0 to 140,000. On the far right, those are homes greater than 500,000. Of those 500 or so homes that sell, what you can see happening is that there are fewer and fewer every year at the 0 to 140, 140 to 200, and that there are more now in the 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and 5 and above. And the reason for that is because of price escalation. It's not that the houses that are coming out are changing, they're gaining value because nobody's selling, and so there's a lot of competition for them. The housing market, though, for this specific audience, in a more narrow way, there has been some price appreciation, as I talked about, over the last few years, but it's beginning to soften. In 2018, we really are beginning to see signs of softening appreciation of the marketplace, and this is across really all price points, and it's certainly also across most markets. As you can see, Tompkins County overall, City of Ithaca, Town of Ithaca, Lansing, all seeing growth in property values, and the black line is the area median, if you will, for this year. even Dryden seeing escalation. Ulysses and Newfield are relatively flat, but there is price increasing happening across the county. This is a more focused view of the earlier slide. What you see generally is a trend of the housing stock or the housing value moving from the $100,000 to $200,000 range up the scale. Again, it's not that the houses are changing or different houses are coming to the market, it's that the values are growing. And so for the entry marketplace, the people that have $150 to $300 to spend, they're finding that they're having to spend more and more as they go to the higher end of that price point in order to find housing. And what's really remarkable is how quickly these houses sell when they do come on the market. Again, that same price break of 100 to 300,000. This is the days on market, so this is from the time it's listed or made available to the time that it goes under contract. A rapid decline in the last 3 years of days on market. You look at the $200,000 to $250,000 number, right? We're down to about 15 days in the market and it's gone. That's how fast homes are moving in our marketplace because there's so few available. In fact, 1 out of 4 listings in these price ranges sell at or above list price and they sell in a week or less. So you've got a lot of home buyers wanting to buy, a lot of competition for those homes, not much opportunity. What's also beginning to become interesting is that the share of transactions being purchased in cash seems to be growing. It's just become a larger share of the different price points. The exception being at the far left end of the chart. And so what that really means is that we've got home buyers who rely on financing competing with cash buyers who don't. And that makes it a very tough negotiation, as you might imagine. Sometimes we believe that some of this is caused by people who are not finding housing actually at the higher price points that they like and are willing to enter into the lower price points with cash because they have it, do some renovations, and occupy those homes. So even those that can afford higher end homes are still competing in the same market that those who can't, right? So now we've got young professionals trying to buy houses, competing against more established individuals, and also competing against seniors who are wanting to downsize, who now have equity that they can leverage to buy these homes. So there's a lot of competition for what winds up being a really small pot of inventory. So that's where we are. We've got a real need, we believe, to create more housing at that price point because it's not out there. And we got a lot of folks who love to have it. So, Ellen?
I'd like to introduce Dr. Sean Eversley Bradwell, who will be our moderator for the panels. And Dr. Bradwell serves as the director for the Center for Ideas, which is Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Social Change at Ithaca College, as well as the MLK Scholars. He's also a great public servant. He's on the vice president of the school board and serves as the Tompkins County Heritage Ambassador. Please welcome Dr. Bradwell.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. I'll begin by just a quick caveat that I tend to speak fast, but as my grandmother, my Nana, has once told me, don't worry, baby, you don't speak fast, people listen slow. So if that happens, please feel free at any point in time to ask me to repeat something. We're going to try to be as engaging in this part of the process as possible to have you do some dialogue at your tables, to do a couple of things. And one of the ideas that have some reflection about the previous presentation from Corning and to think about the takeaways and how that may be applicable to what takes place here. But also to spend some time thinking about what our community needs and the uniqueness. In many regards, this is highly personal. I'm sure not just for me, but for many folks in the audience. I was just having a conversation at my table that I spent the past couple months trying to attract any number of young professionals, both as a Tompkins County Heritage Ambassador, but also within my office, we just hired 2 young professionals who come here and are struggling to find housing as young professionals, and my worry of my ability to keep them here as talented, gifted folks. And so it speaks in that regard. Also trying to think about what our role is to sort of not just think about engagement and collaboration, but to be as solution-focused as possible for this evening. Alan began by talking about, in 1997, the famed Utne Reader article of Ithaca being the most enlightened community ever. I moved here in 1996, and so it was quite an introduction to this community. When I came here, my father called Ithaca cave people, stay with me. And he says Ithaca are citizens against virtually everything. And so I'm very much of our ability to be highly critical. There's no doubt that that serves us well, right? That we know how to digest things, we know how to dissect things, we know how to take things apart. But our goal here this evening is, as much as possible, is to find ways in which to engage with one another and try to find some ways to build solutions, to work together, to build collaborations and partnerships. And so that critical analysis is essential, but equally as important is our ability to forge relationships. And I was at the Rotary yesterday with Dr. Lavelle Brown gave a talk, and he used a quote which I thought was phenomenal, in saying for growth that we will have conflict, that conflict is inevitable, combat is optional. And I thought that was quite well stated. And so what we're going to do before we bring our esteemed panelists, who you're going to hear from momentarily, is great, is spend some time with some sheets that are going around your table. There's a group of folks who spent time planning this evening, thinking about both the obstacles as well as possible solutions that are sort of commonly spoken about in the Ithaca community. And so what we want to do is give people maybe 5 minutes to take a look at the sheet, think about it, and then have some dialogue at your table, and then we'll come back and proceed with the program. I hope that makes sense. So digest the green sheets as they come around, a little dialogue at your program, and then we'll come back and we'll re-engage you momentarily. Hope that makes sense. Does that work?
Yes.
If you're in one of my classes, I would play jazz now, but maybe I'll just hum. Maybe that happens. Question?
And I'm giving you this.